Hey YouTube, how's it going? Today we're going to be looking at Final Destination, the first film in the horror franchise where a group of people narrowly avoid fatal disaster, only then to be hunted down by a supernatural, deadly force. Now in total there have been 5 of these movies, with a 6th one just around the corner, Final Destination Bloodlines. And seeing as it's been more than 10 years since the last Final Destination, I figured we might as well prepare ourselves by taking a look back at the first film where it all began. So if you're completely new to this franchise, then get ready, it's gonna be a real treat. Originally conceived as an X-Files episode named Flight 180, X-Files producer James Wong took that concept and turned it into a feature-length horror film, resulting in Final Destination. Released in the year 2000, it was one of several teen slasher movies that followed in the wake of Wes Craven's Scream, typically centered around a group of teens based in a Dawson's Creek-like setting. The original Final Destination follows a high school senior named Alex Browning who's going to Paris on a school trip. But while at the airport, he happens across a series of bizarre coincidences, such as his plane's departure time being the exact same as his birthday, and the airport playing Rocky Mountain High by folk singer John Denver, who happened to die in a plane crash. Seems like a bad omen, right? Alex eventually boards Flight 180 to Paris, but as soon as the plane takes off, everything goes horribly wrong. During takeoff, a mechanical malfunction occurs, causing the entire plane to combust and explode mid-air, killing every passenger on board, including Alex. Well, short movie, wasn't it? But then Alex wakes up, he's still safe and sound aboard the plane, which hasn't even taken off yet. Okay, so nothing to worry about, right? But turns out Alex wasn't just having a bad dream, as he realizes that everything he just witnessed is now happening for real. Meaning, when this plane takes off, they're all going to die. A frantic Alex tries to warn everyone, but in all the ensuing chaos, a fight breaks out, resulting in Alex, a handful of his classmates, along with their French teacher, being kicked off the plane. And they get left behind at the airport while the others are on their way to Paris. But guess what? The plane explodes and there are no survivors. A little over a month later, the school holds a special memorial for the victims of Flight 180, but the following night, at one of the survivors' house, something sinister is afoot. Alex's friend Todd is suddenly killed in what appears to be a freak accident, although Todd's parents believe he took his own life due to guilt over losing his brother on the plane. Alex, however, is not convinced. Someone, or rather something, wanted Todd dead, but how and why? Alex seeks answers at the local morgue where they're keeping Todd's body, and there he encounters a mortician by the name of Bloodworth, where he finally learns the truth about Todd's death. According to Bloodworth, death itself has a special plan or design for everyone on this earth, deciding exactly when it's people's turn to die and exactly how they will die. So, on the day of the plane accident, Alex and the others were meant to be on that plane, simply because it was their time. But when Alex got those people off the plane, he foiled Death's plan, basically forcing Death to come up with a new plan from scratch. And now, Death has put its new plan in motion where Alex and friends are all currently on Death's hit list. Well, at this point it's pretty much game over, right? I mean, if you were out in the woods, running away from, say, Jason Voorhees, you figure you might have some chance of survival, right? But against the Grim Reaper himself? However, it's also revealed that Death's new design follows the same pattern as before, where it goes after the survivors in the same order that they would have died on the plane, with Todd being the first in line. So there's a pattern to these killings. Alex also finds out that a person can cheat Death if they figure out Death's design, just like Alex did on the plane, thereby forcing Death to skip that person and go for whoever is next in line instead. So for the rest of the movie, Alex and the others try to stay alive as they attempt to find a way to break Death's curse. Only question is, how long can they keep this up? Because no matter what, Death comes for us all eventually, right? So there you have the basic premise of the original Final Destination. And what an awesome concept. A horror franchise where death itself is this abstract force that hunts people down and kills them in these sadistic, elaborate ways, essentially like a slasher villain. And it's wild how the most random objects are combined into this huge death trap in these movies. It's a prime example of Chekhov's gun. You'll see a character walking about and suddenly there's this ominous close-up of some object in the character's vicinity, and you realize that later on that object will be used as one of Death's instruments somehow. It really keeps you on edge. And what makes this movie particularly scary is that the death scenes are fairly brutal and over the top, yet they never seem that far-fetched, considering that people die in some kind of freak accident all the time. It's only a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But of course, in these movies, there are no accidents. Everything's predetermined according to Death's plan. And if we try to alter Death's plan somehow, it'll only end up making things much, much worse. It's a very bleak situation. Now, there's a 1984 horror movie called Soul Survivor, which shares some heavy similarities with Final Destination. Notably, it involves a psychic character who has a premonition of a plane crash and a main character who survives said plane crash, only to be hunted down by some sinister supernatural force. And as it turns out, the reason she's being stalked by this sinister deadly force is because she was supposed to die in that plane crash, and now death itself is coming after her in order to balance the scales.
The harmony of nature has been disrupted.
If you tell them what you know.
The laws of existence have been violated.
So while working on this review, I decided to check out Soul Survivor real quick. And all I can really say about it is that it's just a very okay movie, albeit with some genuinely intriguing ideas behind it. Mainly the whole concept of death being predetermined, and that once Death's plan has been put in motion, there's no way to stop it.
What are you talking about?
No one can stop it, Denise. And anyone who gets in the way, or anyone who knows about it, or anyone who even suspects, will be dealt with.
It's also interesting how the movie becomes this sort of metaphor for survivor's guilt, trying to make sense of why soul survivors of deadly crashes experience this enormous guilt as if they don't deserve to be alive.
It's like once I bought this dress at iMagnon's. Expensive, so I charged it. And it never showed up on my bill. So I thought, great, a mistake in my favor. I'll just keep my mouth shut. It's kind of the same thing I felt when I came to after the crash.
So yeah, Soul Survivor had a terrific concept that was ripe for the taking in a series like Final Destination. And Final Destination really took it a step further with the whole idea of Death's design and Death's clues, which are found throughout the movie. And Death's clues can be virtually anything, from simple references that include the word death, to either signs or symbols that foreshadow someone's death later on in the movie. Whatever you do, just try not to go too far trying to interpret everything around you as some kind of bad omen.
Total bullshit. I mean, you can find death omens anywhere you want to. Coffee. Starts with a C and ends with an A. So does the word choke. So what, we're gonna choke to death?
That being said, Final Destination also raises some interesting spiritual, existential questions about death as a concept. And you see this reflected in the psychology of the characters, how each of them are emotionally and mentally equipped to deal with death itself. Characters go through different emotional phases similar to the 5 stages of grief, such as denial, anger, bargaining, and so forth. But going back to the main character, Alex. So in the movie, he's portrayed as this highly strung kid who's much more conscious about death compared to your average teenager, even to the point of being straight up superstitious.
Whoa, mama, you gotta leave that on. Yeah, it's like, Tay made the last flight without the plane crashing or anything, so I figured it's gotta be on the bag, or at least with the bag.
But it's exactly this anxiety of death that makes him perceptive enough to recognize death's clues and become the perfect foil for Death's design, even if you can sense that he's in way over his head.
I've never dealt with death before. This could all be in our head. It just feels like it's all around us.
And Devon Sawa's performance as Alex Browning really makes the movie for me, because at its core, Final Destination contains a pretty absurd premise. You know, the whole concept of death turning into this angry, vengeful force that stages these elaborate murders in a Rube Goldberg machine-like manner. And it does kind of get sillier as these movies go on. But for me, it's really Sawa's acting that keeps the first film grounded. There's this level of serious, low-key intensity to his performance, which kind of reminds me of Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead.
Groovy.
As a matter of fact, before Devon Sawa did Final Destination, he starred in this offbeat horror film called Idle Hands, which is basically Evil Dead as a teen stoner comedy. But in that movie, he does a fantastic job of playing it straight next to his more wacky co-stars Seth Green and Eldon Henson.
No, not why are you here? I mean, what are you guys like flesh-eating zombies, back from hell, ready to exact revenge? Is that it?
Why would we go to hell?
Duh.
We're not bad. It's not like we're good or anything, but at least we don't go around killing people.
As for some of the supporting characters, on one hand you have Clear Rivers, played by Ali Larter. Now, she's shown to be one of the more pragmatic characters in this movie because she already experienced death in her family at a young age. So not only does her character have a certain knowledge of death itself, she also harbors resentment towards death because she knows how completely unfair death can be.
That was the design for my father and my family? Then fuck death.
On the other hand, you have someone like Carter, played by Kerr Smith. He's basically this jock asshole type who perfectly embodies that delusion of teenage invulnerability, especially around that age when you're a senior in high school. You know what I mean? You're at your physical peak, the world is your oyster, and you're gonna live forever. And suddenly all of that is ripped away in an instant.
Listen, don't you ever fucking tell me what to do, all right? I control my life, not you.
Carter!
I'm never gonna die.
And of course, you have the late Tony Todd, who's absolutely brilliant as the enigmatic character of Bloodworth. He's basically like this mysterious emissary of death who offers the heroes guidance on how to navigate death's design.
If he was pulling at the wire, he wasn't trying to kill himself. It was an accident.
In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. Now you have to figure out how and when it's coming back at you.
And not much has been revealed about his character's origin, which makes his character all the more compelling. And he's been a recurring character throughout the franchise, with Final Destination Bloodlines being one of Tony Todd's last movie roles. So for me, that's another reason to watch the newest film when it comes out. In conclusion, not only do I think the first Final Destination holds up pretty well, I think the series as a whole still has endless potential. You have a unique slasher villain with some of the most vicious, elaborate kills you can find in a horror franchise. You have an interesting group dynamic with characters all trying to process death in their own way. And you have this highly intriguing mystery puzzle where the characters attempt to decipher special clues in order to beat death's design. And it's always a fun experience just for the audience to try to spot all the clues on screen. And I hope they continue to fully utilize this in Final Destination, Bloodlines, and whatever sequels they end up making. We'll see how it turns out. Anyway, that's all I have for today's review. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for my next review. And as always,
I'll see you soon.